Welcome to the Player Attack summer season, thanks to Wargaming. We're taking a few weeks off to relax, go outside, enjoy the sunshine. Wait, who am I kidding? We're going to be playing our way through a whole stack of video games. Player Attack will be back in 2014. We've already got some exciting things in store, so stay tuned. We will still be updating playerattack.com throughout the holiday season, as well as hanging around on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can drop us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, if you've got something to say. In the meantime, why don't you take a little while to catch up on some of the Player Attack highlights from the past year as we revisit some of our favourite clips.
Why did I move here? I guess it was the weather. Or I don't know, that thing, that magic. You see it in the movies. I wanted to retire from what I was doing, From that line of work. Be a good guy for once, a family man.
I knew Grand Theft Auto 5 was going to be good. It's a freaking Rockstar game. But good was an understatement. Good was like saying I didn't poop myself with excitement the first time I saw the Brachiosaurus in Jurassic Park. If you didn't, you either don't know amazing when you see it, or you have battle control. The ambitious scope and sheer artistic beauty of GTA 5 blew my mind, and you need to know why. First things first, we're back in sunny Los Santos, baby. It's all back. Grove Street, Mount Chiliad, the rest of the places. Leaving behind the claustrophobic concrete jungle that was Liberty City, Rockstar's now blessed us with a whole region. Everything about the landscape pushes my 360 to its limit, with exceptional draw distance and amazing transitional dated light cycles. You want to plonk your ass on the top of the highest peak and watch the delicate glow bathe the city as the sun sets. Back up, Johnny, you've jumped ahead of yourself there. Characters are kind of instrumental to the whole game, and this time instead of one avatar of crime and destruction, you have 3. First up is Michael, a 40-year-old retired bank robber, the closest to a winner in the GTA universe. He has a massive house, Scrooge McDuck levels of bank, and a family that loathes his very existence. Up next is Franklin, a low-level, petty criminal trying to go straight and make it out of the hood by inadvertently becoming Michael's protege of sorts. Franklin is our connection to the gangbangers, substance abusers, and downtrodden in the glitz and the glamour of this bizarre representation of LA. Then finally we have Trevor. Every time this character is on screen, I don't know whether my chair has a back anymore. I'm so on edge. What's coming next? Joke? Hug? Repeated stamping on someone's face whilst yelling Expletus? These qualities should make him detestable, but with the clever writing, humour, and most importantly interplayed relationships between him and his other cohorts, you see a softer, fiercely loyal side. Having 3 playable protagonists is a huge step in the right direction for telling a more cohesive and believable story than any other GTA installment before it. The game no longer forces inappropriate characters to undertake inappropriate missions. If you need to take part in illegal street races, Franklin's your man. Going to mercilessly gun down waves of hipsters for wearing ironic shirts? Time for old unhinged Trevor to do his thing. This small addition to the gameplay does a surprising amount to keep me immersed in the world. The missions are also far more forgiving this time around, with many refinements being made to the gameplay since GTA 4. First major one, the cars no longer handled like overweight boats. They're now on par with the arcade realistic cars of Forza Horizon, which makes for so much less frustration. The biggest improvement by far is, get ready for it, mid-mission checkpoints. No longer do you have to do that 20-minute drive of nothingness after overestimating the ability of your souped-up scooter to make that insane jump. It seems like something so basic by nowadays standards, but by God is it a welcome inclusion. After all the banks are plundered and gangbangers are, well, banged, what else is there to do? You're living in Los Santos, what can't you do? I actually found myself ignoring the missions most of the time just to do my own thing, which surprisingly didn't involve 5 stars and an inevitable trip to the hospital. Instead, I'd switch to Michael, whack on my Spandau Ballet-esque grey suit, and go watch some movies at the cinema. Maybe stop some petty crime with no illusion of reward, swim in the ocean, still in my suit may I add, base jump, hell, I even played some passive-aggressive tennis against my wife. There is just so many things you can do. Then something dawned on me. I was doing it all by myself. You have a phone with a wicked extensive contact list, but nobody ever picks up when you call them. I missed being called to go bowling, even if I was going to turn him down. In a massive, bustling, alive city, I felt alone, and that was kind of depressing. And while we're on the topic of depressing, another thing the GTA games just can't seem to shake is a negative portrayal of, you've guessed it, women. Before any of you can pick up your torches and form a lynch mob, here's my beef. In 2010, Rockstar released Red Dead Redemption, essentially GTA with cowboys, and it was awesome. Within RDR, there is a female character by the name of Bonnie, and she is fantastic. She is an unwed, by choice, ranch-operating gunslinger who is a powerful blend of kindness and toughness. This shows Rockstar understands how to make a likable, believable, empowered female character, yet in GTA, I always struggle to find one. GTA 5 is no exception. Each major female character is against you, there to emasculate you, or there for you to empower yourself. In a world I was so constantly immersed in, normal societal things like the lack of believable women should not be niggling away in the back of my mind, threatening to pull me out. Regardless of these few things, GTA 5 is, well, the Jurassic Park of its time. It's beautiful to behold, stupid amounts of fun to play, a great step in mature storytelling, and technologically so far ahead of its competition. It simply is a masterpiece that all other sandbox games will be compared to for years to come. Oh, and Rockstar? A DLC package where you get to play as a badass woman like Mallory from Natural Born Killers would be awesome. Just saying.
Roll out. World of Tanks. Play for free at tanks.asia.
It's been 10 years. You start to forget the things you should remember. And you can't stop remembering the things you should forget. We've always had the power. Not anymore.
I am here at E3 2013 and it is my great pleasure to be standing next to Hank Keirsey, the military advisor for Call of Duty. How does one get a job like that?
Jessica, you got to be lucky. You got to be really lucky. And actually, I was reluctant initially to take the employment. I've been with them for all 10 years. I got a call in my comfort of my home and said, hey, come be the Call of Duty advisor. I said, I don't know what Call of Duty is, and I don't like video games, so no, I'm not coming. And the guy said, well, they're going to fly us out first class, and they're going to give us whiskey. I said, well, I guess I could go. Now, my reluctance turned to enthusiasm when I went to see the studios, and I saw in the level of passion and the craftsmanship that was going into the making of the games. Now, this is a World War II games, but what they were doing, because they were so detailed and authentic, was they were telling history. And the kids or young men or young humans that played the game would gain an appreciation for that generation that was passing into the long night. So I became a real enthusiast. Now, since that time, they transformed in 2007, they transformed to Modern Warfare pretty much. And the same level of commitment and passion to making the game authentic was there. And also now, folks that played the game got an appreciation for what soldiers, Australian SAS guys, coming back from the front, we went through. Now, they weren't getting the whole experience, but you get a little slice of a snippet of what looks down gun sights and some of the stress of a real big firefight. So I became enthusiastic. More importantly, I think, what these guys do and how much work and effort they put into making this game is impressive. And we in America, outsource a lot of our manufacturing, but this group does not outsource this. They're cranking it till midnight, 2 in the morning, trying to get this game and make it good. The old competition syndrome with another studio, one of the other developers is incredible, and I like the product.
What sort of a background did you have to make Activision make that initial call to you?
Yeah, I commissioned in the infantry, spent most of my time in parachute units, was Ranger qualified, had some time in a combat zone, so 24 years. And more importantly, for the first games, I had a stint of 3 years teaching military history at West Point, the military academy. So I was able to take modern warfare, but also talk about World War II weapons and World War II equipment and World War II tactics. So that fit. And then as they can transition to modern warfare, after I retired, I continued to go back on a few gigs as a military contractor to Iraq. So I was able to stay current with what's going on there. So I was able to bring that to the modern warfare games.
Excellent. Now, Call of Duty Ghosts, it is the talk of the show. Everyone is very excited about it. What is new in Call of Duty Ghosts. It's a completely new story that we haven't seen before. And so what's so exciting about this one?
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that, the U.S. has always been a dominant military power. They had all the resources, they had all the guns, they had all the airplanes and all the helicopters. They needed to squash anybody like a bug. So is that exciting? Well, it's kind of exciting. But this scenario, the U.S. has suffered a tremendous setback. The military's been quasi-destroyed or minimized. The country is out of money. Something has occurred that made us kind of a third world country. And a steely-eyed, flat-bellied group of former special operators get together in this very elite and secretive unit to try to do harm to those that would do us harm in clandestine, in more crafty and clever ways that you do as you're an underdog, So it puts you in a scenario where courage and tactics make a difference. And you can't rely on the big artillery strike. You can't rely on the airplane dropping a bomb through the window. You have to get in there and do it yourself, the old-fashioned way.
So while it might look all new and modern and shiny, it is actually just back to some brass knuckles.
It's back to the basics, human courage and kicking indoors. So it's good. I think it's going to be good. Now also you combine that with the graphic engine that is created by this Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 and all the other modern stuff. And you take what was a cartoonish looking face and you take it to a new dimension where the artists are really painting somebody that looks like a human standing beside you. And the dog looks like a dog, and you actually have compassion for the dog and want to feed the dog and pet it in the game. So now you're involved with the squad, all right, and you stay with the squad the whole time, and you get that emotional experience of going with your brothers once more into the breach.
You know that everybody wants to know about the dog too, right?
Oh yeah, who would? There's two kind of people: guys that like dogs and guys that ought to be, drummed out of Australia.
Thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you again sometime. And I wish the best for everybody out there in Australia. And I thank you for helping us in the current conflicts.
The week that Wind Waker HD was re-released on the Wii U, sales of the console rose up by 685%. We took a look at the game to see if a re-release was really worth all the fuss. We are looking at essentially the same game here. If you're expecting many new additions, you're going to be disappointed. Aside from a few extra tweaks and dialogue boxes to explain how to use the gamepad, Nintendo have not changed a thing, but they didn't need to. This is an example of a classic Zelda game. The major difference you're going to see is in the title. Wind Waker is now in HD, and it is amazing. You'll notice the difference from the opening home screen. At the original release in 2003, I wasn't a fan of the graphics change. Ocarina of Time was my favourite style, and I was happy to see the franchise go back to it in Twilight Princess and then Skyward Sword. Despite the kiddie graphics, I still bought Wind Waker and I was glad I did. It was a solid Zelda game. The story was fun and the graphics suited the adventure and lovable characters. Now being re-released in HD, I was able to get on board a little bit more. You feel engrossed in the game this time. You'll find yourself watching the trees sway in the wind and the birds flying in the distance. The HD upgrade is noticeable in every scene, from the burst of purple smoke when you kill a monster to the sun glare and clouds in the sky. This game is beautiful. In case you didn't run out and buy a GameCube for the first release, Wind Waker begins with a run-through of some Zelda mythology. Basically, you're going to get the story of the Ocarina of Time, which is a great help for new players and super fun to relive for long-time fans. You're then introduced to the Wind Waker story, connecting Link from Hyrule to the little blondie you'll be playing throughout this game. The play mechanics are typically Zelda. The puzzle and quests that we love best from the franchise are all still there. And did I mention you can take selfies now? The highlight of this release for me was the Wii U gamepad. It was nice to go back to using a more standard controller after the Wii remote-controlled Skyward Sword. Item inventory and map interface on the gamepad is completely user-friendly, especially when typing in your character's name. Finally, a real keyboard. Having the gamepad makes running around as Link an even better experience. To see what items you've collected and peruse dungeon maps, you simply just look down at your gamepad screen and it's all there. This is especially helpful when sailing through the huge ocean from one dungeon to the next. No more flicking through menus and pausing precious gameplay time. The Miiverse is the other new addition to this version, a system for sending messages through the Wii U universe. It's not for everyone, but for those who are really into the interaction side of the Wii U, it adds an extra bit of excitement to your adventure. There's also a new hero mode option for those of us who feel we're a little more skilled than we were 10 years ago and want a bit more of a challenge. Wind Waker still has its downsides. For me, the sailing scenes were sometimes tedious. The novelty of controlling the winds and sailing from island to island wore off pretty early on. And although a swift sail function is introduced to this version, you still feel like you spend a lot of time looking at a boat in water. But this is a minor flaw and a lot of gamers will still enjoy the sailing adventures. Similarly to the GameCube version, the camera angle is great majority of the time, but in some tight situations you might find a wall between you and your character. I also found some of the talking quests a bit dull, but these are typical to a Zelda game and you can always have fun running around the town, cutting grass and smashing pots. Wind Waker is a well-loved game on its first release and has only been improved with the use of the gamepad and stunning new graphics. This is a game that is challenging yet playable for young kids and still loads of fun for the adults. I played Wind Waker on its release 10 years ago and I've loved it even more the second time around. A re-release like this truly shows the merit of a game, and if anything, it's got me excited for an all-new Zelda game on the Wii U.
Roll out. World of Tanks. Play for free at tax.asia.
Jimmy the Geek here in 1997. The big news this year, not all games licensed from movies are dreadful, unplayable messes. Rareware have proved this with GoldenEye 007, based on a 1995 film of the same name. The N64 exclusive was originally designed as a rail shooter, similar to Virtua Cop, but it was changed in development to be a free-roaming FPS. Players take control of James Bond himself, as he goes through the scenes from the film, armed with a machine gun, guns, rocket launchers, tanks, and in a nod to the previous Bond franchises, the Golden Gun. This, combined with another FPS, in which players must hunt their way through hordes of dinosaurs in the aptly named Turok Dinosaur Hunter, are going a long way in proving to the market that first-person shooters can work outside the confines of the PC. Sony, conversely, are trying to be a bit more kid-friendly with their new property. The game features Parappa, a cartoon dog who solves most, if not all of his problems by believing in himself and speaking rhythmically. He goes through everyday problems like baking a cake and learning how to drive in a quirky animated style in an absolutely kicking soundtrack. Playing the game is as simple as matching buttons as they appear on the screen in rhythm. No details yet as to how much further this new genre will go. One of the hot button issues this year is industrialization and its environmental impact, with two separate developers offering two very different takes. Oddworld Inhabitants have published the first in their Oddworld quintology, Abe's Odyssey. It's a real physics platformer like Flashback and is about as subtle as a sledgehammer in regards to its consumption of natural resources. Abe wanders haplessly through a giant world filled with hideous monsters that must be conserved because everything is beautiful. This message is somewhat undermined in that every time one of these creatures sees Abe's, it gores and eats him. The seventh game in the increasingly inaccurately named Final Fantasy series is taking a more subtle approach, making the big bad, the Shinra Corporation, exactly that, an evil pseudo-government who oppresses its populace. Luckily, the freedom fighters Avalanche have recruited Cloud Strafe into their numbers. The game also is dealing with more personal issues like coping with loss, and it's been alleged that the story was written to help one of the writers grieve for his mother. Speaking of stories in games, it's a great time to own a PC. With Curse of Monkey Island, the long-awaited third part from the spectacular series from LucasArts hitting the PC everywhere. Mighty Pirate and hapless idiot Guybrush Threepwood has accidentally turned his girlfriend into a gold statue, and must bumble his way through inherently funny things like chickens, monkeys, banjos and cheese to revive her. This is the first game in the series not to feature creator Ron Gilbert, but also features voice acting for the first time, with Dominic Armato giving our quirky protagonist a voice. Another adventure game, setting the scene for World War I, The Last Express, has made an impact. Mostly because of its sophisticated NPC AI and its gameplay taking place in pseudo-real time. Hopefully it won't be too badly affected by the mass walkout of marketing staff from its developer. Finally, a new driving game has hit the PC. Note I did not say racing game. Unlike Gran Turismo, which also came out this year, it's a top-down driving sim and it's not about winning on a track. Developer DMA Designs put you in control of a street thug, stealing cars for fun and profit. It's essential you avoid the police, and if people don't get out of your way, you can't be held responsible. There is a big future in this franchise called Grand Theft Auto. I'm Jimmy the Geek in 1997.
And that's about it for this week's Player Attack. Thanks for watching. We will have new content for you in February, but in the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till we revisit some more favourite content next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.